Hey guys, welcome back. My name is David, and this is Reading Seth. This is actually going to be episode number 9. We're going through blog posts from September of 2002 from Seth Godin's blog. We've been reading along from so far the year 2002 in these episodes. Today, we've actually got 3 blog posts. The first one, Iconic Marketing Award of the Week from September 5th of 2002. And then we're going to go to the second one, which is Sometimes It Feels Like, which is actually another one from September the 5th of 2002. And then we're going to finish up from September 17th, almost what I would have done. Now, for those that have been following along, there's a number of good posts that we've already read and reviewed. However, today's number 2, which is Sometimes It Feels Like, which is from September 5th of 2002, is actually one of the best of the year that I've seen. Definitely there's going to be some real meat that we're going to dig into on that one, so I want you to definitely pay attention. With that, we're going to jump into it today. If you have comments, definitely include those down below. I love to reach out and interact with you guys with comments on the blog posts and the videos and just what you think about them. Definitely send those comments in. If you check the description out below as well, it'll have any links that came from the blog post as usual, as well as links to the blog posts themselves. But with that, we're going to jump into number 1, which is September 5th of 2002, which is Iconic Marketing Award of the Week. Alex noticed a funny sign on the door to our local Subway sandwich shop. On one side, it encouraged you to buy a special meal, which included a large Coke, a bag of potato chips, and a 3-meat sandwich. On the other side of the glass, the same sign proclaimed that Subway was a proud sponsor of the American Heart Walk. Go figure. At least they made it impossible to see both sides of the sign at the same time. As contingency lawyers and attorney generals start gearing up to attack the fast food restaurants for their contribution to the sorry state of America's health, the real question is, are we fat and slothful because McDonald's made us this way? Or is McDonald's the way it is because we are so driven to become fat and slothful? Hey guys, one of the things, it's kind of interesting when he's talking about the Iconic Marketing Award of that week, and he's making a really good point. And it is, are we just really blaming companies, marketers, whatnot, for what they're selling to us? Or are we going to really be honest about what it is we want to buy? Would McDonald's actually be there if we weren't buying Big Mac? I think all of us know that we're supposed to eat better, exercise more, save consistently, be attentive to those whom we have a relationship with. All of these things. Our problem is actually a lack of will, and it's the lack of will to do things on a day-to-day basis and play the long game. Interestingly, and it's a secondary. I'll have the link down in the description below. But as far as playing that long game, and in most cases, it's not big changes. They turn out to be big changes in the long run. But I had another post that I wrote about a year ago talking about one small change. And it was sort of my rant or argument against the fact that everybody does the New Year's resolutions. I didn't make any last year. I didn't actually make any this year either. I don't make resolutions. I basically try to work on a day-to-day and making small changes every day. So as opposed to saying I'm going to lose 50 pounds, my small change today is I'm not going to have a soda, or I'm not going to smoke a cigarette, or whatever it is. I don't smoke. But it's what is that small thing that I can do today, be successful at, repeat tomorrow, and possibly add on to it. Because after that is playing the long game, which we want to do. Cool. Well, up next for today is the other post from September the 5th. And it's actually called Sometimes I Feel Like. Now, again, I said it a little bit earlier, I really liked this post. There is a lot of actual gold nuggets and meat that's going to be coming out as we go through this post. I'll probably intersperse some comments in the midst of it. It is definitely one of my favorites that I've seen so far from 2002. But with that, let's jump into Sometimes It Feels Like, and this is actually from September 5th as well. Sometimes it feels like the rank and file gets nothing but the short end of whatever stick is available. Whether it's layoffs or excessive CEO pay, the hardworking folks that really do the work end up with the shaft. I had lunch last week with an old friend, Jim. I hadn't seen him in 2 years, and it was a great chance to catch up. The food was great. The rest of the lunch was pretty dismal. Hey guys, just a quick one. Do you identify with Jim? In my life, at times I have. I'll be honest and say it. I've identified with Jim, been kind of stuck in the rut, kind of had the problems. And one thing to think about, as I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the iconic marketing word of the week, is that one small change. If you are truly feeling like you identify with Jim as we're going through this post, there's a lot of details that Seth's going to come into it. What you might want to do is think about what your small changes might be to get away from being Jim and getting out of that rut. Okay, well, back to the post. Jim works for a big New York conglomerate. He's 50 years old, he's got another 25 years of good work left, and he hates his job. He's stuck. He's doing exactly what he was doing the last time we had lunch. He spends most days counting how long before he can afford to retire, a number that, thanks to the stock market meltdown, just got a lot bigger. 5 years ago, Jim had a dream job, the sort we all envied, the kind we saw profiled in one magazine after another. Now that very same job feels like a trap. The big lie of the new economy is that everyone could live the life of an entrepreneur without actually being one. We bought the idea that all the good stuff that people look for from an organization, job security, benefits, vacations, the safety of being able to blame your boss when things don't go well, could be accomplished by the rush of fast growth and the heady feeling we get when the bureaucracy gets out of the way and we get to discover what we can really accomplish. We lionize the 28-year-olds pioneering new products or launching new divisions. We envied the lucky, but not particularly skilled or risk-taking middle managers who made a fortune with stock options. We called ourselves entrepreneurs, smiling because we were getting the best of both worlds. Yes, the trap. Definitely follow along. Seth's going to get us out of the trap. But as I was reading this, I heard Admiral Akbar. I heard him. He goes, "There's a trap. They're sucking you in. Don't let them do it." So you'll always want to be watching out for the trap. Okay, well, back into the post. Wrong. Very wrong. Wrong because we missed two big ideas. The first idea is that big companies are fundamentally broken. Big companies are big companies because they're very good at doing yesterday's business. They can make and sell their stuff faster and cheaper than the competition because they've gotten good at making and selling their existing products. The problem is that when the world changes, and it is changing faster than ever, being good at yesterday's business isn't just useless, it's actually a liability. All those big companies are sweating it now because the infrastructure they built is about as useful as a Maginot line. It's obsolete. Penguins like cold weather. When it gets warm, they're stuck. The finely tuned machinery they developed for one environment won't work so well in the new environment. Yes, guys, this actual note that Seth's at right now could be an entire series to its own. And it basically shoots at our dependence on how we used to do it. And that's especially in a world where things have fundamentally changed. Down below, I'm going to actually add a link to a video from Gary Vee, for those of you that are fans of Gary's or you're very familiar with his work. He was actually doing a speech, and he's doing a Q&A from the session. He's interacting with the father whose daughter is very soon to go to college. She's visiting colleges, and he's trying to get Gary to give some advice to his daughter. And I'm going to link the video down below. But to paraphrase what Gary was talking about is he was really calling into question the idea of specifically talking about what his daughter was going to do. It sounded like his daughter was really interested in doing business or marketing or whatnot. And the paraphrase of Gary Vee, what he's talking about, the silliness of borrowing money to actually pay for an education where the professors are teaching you how they did something 20 to 30 years ago. You want to make sure that who you're learning from and who you're getting taught by and who you're actually emulating is someone who's actually doing it. It's someone who's being successful at it. They're not talking about something that they either haven't done or B, that they haven't done recently. But with that, let's jump back into the post. The second idea is the stock market has been broken for just as long. The stock market is a huge mass psychology scam, dependent on the fiction that there will always be someone stupider than you, willing to buy those shares for more than you just paid. The key part of this scam is the generally agreed upon principles that investors seek. At the center of those principles is the idea that big companies with predictable earnings are likely to continue to grow and thrive. This used to be true, of course, but in a chaotic world, it's proven wrong every single day. The bottoming out that we're living through is a direct consequence of these two ideas becoming very clear to us at precisely the same time. Big companies can't keep growing forever at 20% a year, perfecting yesterday's business. But the stock market didn't want to hear that. So the big companies with the direct encouragement of the accounting firms lied about their results. Yeah, lied is a strong word, but that's what it's called when you don't tell the truth. All along, while they were giddy at the huge expansion we all enjoyed, we were missing the real point. And now we're paying for it. Again, guys, one of the things I'm doing with these posts is we're trying to follow along with Seth's perspectives on business from 2002 and actually getting a backwards look at just how much he actually knew then that we can actually look back and see now. And in this case, what we don't want to lose here is Seth actually pinned this post in 2002. In 2002, we were exiting a recession type slowdown from the 1990s. It's a slowdown from the 1990s boom, right? And we were actually coming out of a recession in 2002, and Gary's sort of talking about these issues of corporate dishonesty, over exuberance, fast to the market, fast and loose physical practices, whether that's corporate or personal, right? And the thing to think about it is we were actually going into a period of growth when Seth penned this. And what we now know looking back is he was somewhat eerily predictive about the fact that in 2008 we had what we now know as the Great Recession, where really the ultimate consequence of a lot of that physical malfeasance, over exuberance, personal private type credit practices, they actually those roosters came home to roost, or those chickens came home to roost 6 years later after he did this. So definitely this is another one of those occasions where us getting the perspective of getting to view back on what Seth was actually talking about then, and then we saw what happened after he said it. But with that, let's jump back in and get toward the end. The other day, I took my son to see Steve Jobs at his annual keynote at the Macworld Expo in New York. He sat transfixed for hours, amazed at the energy and insight and enthusiasm Steve brought to the podium. I mean, Steve was acting like he owned the place. Of course, he does own the place. And that's the most important I think we can take away from the nausea of the last 2 years. Apple introduces great products on a regular schedule. Contrast the magic of the iPod, or .Mac, or Final Cut Pro with the sheer banality of most of what passes for innovation in big businesses. Other technology companies introduce services they expect to become profitable monopolies. Apple actually introduces things they're proud of. Steve isn't trying to make the stock price go up. He's not trying to keep his infrastructure busy or please his dealers. He's making stuff he believes in. He's continuing the legend. It's the happy coincidence of his ego and our needs. Of course, that's only true when it's true. The rest of the time, Apple makes products that fail. They don't excite, that don't make profit. For almost 30 years, though, there has been just enough wins to pay for the losses. He's a hero, a model for millions. Again, guys, it is almost eerie how Seth was actually sort of predicting what was going to happen. It's almost as if he wrote this for now or for then, right? He wrote it then for some period in between that we can now see, or he's written it in such a way that is still applicable today. Specifically in this case, he's talking about Apple in a good bit. Steve Jobs, we look back now. He died in October of 2011. And if you look back for what we know now back to his death, that death to some extent marked a real break in the Apple brand. It was a turning point for Apple. It was a brand that he created. He ended up leaving or got pushed out and then returned back to lead into the growth period that it hit. But now if you're actually honest and you look at, his creativity and the forward leadership that he provided to Apple, it enjoyed it during his leadership. And then if you look back at kind of their recent activities, they're still dealing with the iPhone. They've got the iWatch. They had the iPad. The Apple phone came from the iTouch. Most all of those things were devices and technologies that Apple came out with that was something that Steve Jobs came up with. Really, they're sort of improving on what he left for them. There's not a lot of really, quote, new things that they've come out with recently. They've sort of been in this kind of period of stagnation in some ways, in that they're just kind of redoing on the same thing they've already done. It is appropriate for those of you that do investing, because as we talk about it today, Apple is a huge player. Still one of the biggest companies in the world, and if you look at them, they're really one of the four companies in sort of what they call today the race to the trillion, where they're out. If there's four companies that are kind of racing to $1 trillion valuation, Apple, and then you say Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, right, are kind of the four. Now, sort of using Seth's logic here, we might be able to do some predictions as far as which one is going to win, or maybe, at least in my opinion, which one of the two might win. If you take Apple, Steve Jobs passed away. So that might be troublesome for them. If you take Microsoft, Bill Gates hasn't passed away, but now Bill Gates is focused on a lot of other interests, especially some of the philanthropic interests that he and his wife are involved in, or other type issues that he's involved in or interested in. He's not really doing stuff with Microsoft now. Now, if you take Google, Larry Page and Sergey, they're still there. They are still involved. And then Amazon, Jeff Bezos is still in control, or he was at the time of this when this video was produced, for both of those two cases. Now, from my perspective, if you give me two to bet on, I'm betting on either Google or Amazon. If you tell me I have to bet on one, I'm going to have to think a little bit about it. If I look at Amazon, Jeff Bezos is still in charge, and it's a good player. The one thing that you think about Amazon is they are experts in getting better every day at how to sell to people, right? And that's really, if you distill down what they do, what they get good at, that's it. It's interesting when you talk about Google. It's a little bit different business model when you talk about what eventually Google became and what they do. They don't so much sell to people, but what they're actually selling is insights about people, right? About what you search for, what applications you use, how do you use them, what do you do? If you truly look at it, Amazon is selling stuff to people, and in the end, Google is selling insights about people. They're kind of selling information about people to others that might be wanting to sell them something. If I had to bet my money, I'm going to bet on selling knowledge over selling stuff. But like I said, if you give me two choices, I'm taking Google and Amazon, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to win that bet. But now, at that, let's go ahead and close up to the end. And here we go with the final part. What if everyone had guts like that? What if everyone reading this article realized that the point of their careers, 2,000 hours a year, 50 years in a row, that's 100,000 hours of work, isn't to crank out yet another widget? What if, just maybe, we quit making stuff and started making a difference? The giant secret of the new economy was this. Entrepreneurs momentarily got a free and fast ride to wealth via the stock market. That connection is temporarily over. But the basic idea behind entrepreneurship is stronger than ever. It's a time of rapid change. The best organizations are small and fast, and the people who run them have a chance to make an impact that will last. It's not a coincidence that one of the byproducts of the technology revolution is the death of the factory. With all the publicly available infrastructure, from cell phones to emails to Kinkos to outsourcing in Thailand, there's really no reason to build a company anymore. And since big companies are no more profitable than little ones, it's the little ones that are most likely to spring up, make a difference, and then without tears disappear, only to reappear some other time, some other place. This is hard to swallow for a lot of people. We grew up with parents who read Time and Forbes, not Inc. Our role models weren't crazed entrepreneurs on a mission from God to accomplish something or go bust trying. We don't see ourselves wearing these shoes. Why can't the world just settle down and let us get some rest? Alas, the world isn't going to settle down. The desire for safety is understandable, but it's being overwhelmed by Moore's Law, by globalization, by competitive desire. I'm sorry if you made it 2/3 of the way to retirement, but alas, the world got crazy on us. The dot-coms that failed in a big way all had one thing in common. They tried to use money to insulate themselves from external change. They tried to buy success, to buy bigness, to buy stability. You can't, no matter how big you are. As long as you work for someone, you have no job security. As long as your company is public, Your future is in the hands of other people who are likely not as smart as you are. And as long as you follow the instructions of others, you won't be fulfilling your destiny of really and truly making a difference in the way people live and work. How much time do you spend every day working on how fulfilled and happy the CEO is? How much do you invest to be sure she's got a secure job? Big news. Your CEO spends precisely the same amount of time worrying about you. I want to do something for you. I'm begging you. It'll only take a few minutes, but I think you might enjoy it. Imagine for a second that you lost your job. Further, imagine that the industry in which you've been trained and are working has just disappeared. What are you going to do? Are you going to go out and find another job? A job at Enron? Or WorldCom? Or a big bureaucracy with 100 people working in accounts payable and a budget for strategy consultants of several $1 million a year? What if there were no choice? What if you had to start something? Anything. What would it be? You don't need a good idea to start a business. You could steal one. Find someone in another town, another state, another industry, and do what they're doing. Once you get started, your original idea is going to be replaced anyway. Smart entrepreneurs don't stick with the original business plan to begin with. You'll realize that every day is another day closer to success, and changing the plan is part of the plan. The best part of this exercise is that when you realize that you are smart enough, motivated enough, and focused enough to actually do this, that once you decide that you could actually run the place, you'll realize that no other option is that satisfying. Quit your job right now. Stop doing something that's crazy, risky, and ill-considered. Your current job is all three. Stop working for the factory and start building something that people will remember. Here's the crux of the matter. Organizations where the people doing the work are the very same people who are making the decisions are more likely to succeed in the long run. Just about all the sins of American business, from environmental to accounting fraud, can be pinned on an anonymous bureaucracy. Entrepreneurs can't be anonymous. It's your decision, your policy, your work, your business. And so you're on it, you're fast and honest, or you're out. There's nowhere else to pass the buck. Is it scary? Well, just for a second, consider the alternative. You could work for Motorola, or Adelphia, or even AT&T, always wondering when the company's going to downsize you at the same time you were busy doing whatever the boss asked you just to be sure you'd be the last to be fired. Sounds to me like running a tiny business is totally safe in comparison. Actually, you don't have to quit right now. One of the best parts of the no infrastructure economy is that you can start in your spare time. Hey, it worked for eBay. Here we go, guys. Listen, there is a lot of meat in that post. I would definitely recommend, if you enjoyed it, to go back and listen to it again. Like I said, there is a lot of real value there. And like I said, I can kind of distill it down into a couple of questions that Seth is probably, I feel like Seth's probably asking. And it really comes down to one, which is, what's your excuse, right? If you're truly Jim, and you're not really happy where you are, what's your excuse for why you're not doing something else? And then in true Seth fashion, once you share with him what your excuse is and share that with yourself, definitely look in the mirror, talk about what the excuse is. And then the second part to the question is then what? Well, the final post for today is almost what I have done. It's from September 17th of 2002, and we'll go ahead and jump right into that now. Bon Jovi, known more for loud music than acute marketing sense, is profiled in a recent Wall Street Journal piece, Battling Music Pirates. At first glance, it's straight out of permission marketing. The band is offering listeners who buy a copy of their new CD a chance to enter their serial number online and get concert tickets, fan info, whatever. The good news is that the music business is starting to see that the relationship with the fan is worth more than the profit on a single CD. Last year, for the first time in more than 5 years, no record in the U.S. sold more than 5 million copies. That means that reliably reaching a small audience who wants to hear from you is far better strategy than attempting to sell everyone in the world. The bad news is the band is battling, that it views fans as the enemy. Now, this topic, he's talking about music again. This topic came up earlier episodes, earlier months, and it's about disruption of the music industry. How artists, in a lot of cases, you'd hear them talking about they're battling, and they're trying to protect their intellectual property. And as Seth has noted multiple times, who are they battling with? If you really think about it, it's their listeners. That's their customer. They're in a fight with their customers about their material. Seth predicted it, and I think they found it. It's a war that at the time they were ill-equipped to fight, and for which victory, it wouldn't achieve the goal they wanted, which is actually getting their music into the hands of more people. Seth is really focused on this, and it even continues on into 2000 toward the end of 2002 and even into 2003, from what I've noticed. Where Seth kept talking about this, and I think the music industry was a really good harbinger of kind of our mentality of how we talk to our customers. Are you at war with them? Do you feel like you're fighting them to get something? Or are you actually being a servant to them? Are you actually providing something of value to them that they want? Or are you just trying to push something on them that you want to sell them? So with that, let's get back and finish out almost what I would have done. Why should I go to the site and register my email address and a lot of personal information? What's in it for me? Is the access to tickets just bait? Or is there really a reward for my long-term attention in cash? Here's the challenge. We need to remember who we're working for. We're working for the people who pay us with attention. Bon Jovi is making a really brave step, but they have to take their time, not get greedy, not start spamming those fans who take a step and enroll. And there's the end of that one, guys. What I want you to remember is something that Seth has said in a number of these posts, and we've been repeating over and over again. It's just something to keep in the top of our mind. Permission and the value that it truly represents, that is still the best option for the future. And I know there are some posts now, if you actually look into 2018, where Seth's talking about things where in the capability that we might have to get permission, or the opportunity that we have to actually gather groups of people who we have permission to talk to and gather them together and to some extent represent them, deliver content to them, learn to sort of speak on their behalf to find out what their interests are, what they like. Again, that is truly an opportunity that was a best option in 2002, and it's even getting more so now that we're into 2018. Hey guys, that wraps up our 3 posts for September of 2002. That's gonna be the end for episode 9 today. Listen, if there was something that really interested you, or something you even want to have a little deeper discussion about, or got some questions about, include those in the comments below. I always like the comments and try to answer those and reach out. And like I said, in many times, that's going to come up to be some of my shortcuts or short takes that I do as part of the channel as well. So definitely add those at the bottom, and definitely hit the subscribe button. Love to have you guys keeping up. Stick around. Pretty soon we're going to be having episode number 10. That will be from October of 2002, and I'll be looking for you guys coming up soon. Thanks. This is David, and have a good day.